Hi there, it's John Goldie. Just getting back to you on some of the feedback I've had from just from various people via my newsletter, YouTube channel, etc. Did a couple of things a while back on independence, just using really simple ideas. Which one I did before was which is basically sort of having a constant rhythm or beat with your thumb, and you're going to do something that's slightly syncopated, in other words not quite on the beat, with your other hand. So basically the idea on that was you're going 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 1, 2. So it's a mixture of on the beat and off the beat there with this part. It looks really simple, but it's quite difficult to actually really nail it down. And some of the feedback I get from people is, oh, it's a lot harder than it looks, etc., etc. Yeah, that's the whole point, because you're trying to break down a technique thing. You're trying to sort of break it down so that you're able to do it in your own way, if you like. So sort of following on with that a little bit is a couple of other ideas that you could do. It's a very similar thing, and that is if you take this type of thing, which everybody probably knows. So again, just in the key of E, it's quite simple. So again, just from my experience of doing all this kind of stuff, one thing that I've learned the hard way probably is just to break everything down and to do really simple versions of things first. So don't try and do anything, don't try and do something too complicated right away, because you end up just sort of making yourself coming back a little bit. So if you imagine, if you slow it down and it's just like that, so it's really quite slow beat, and we just do everything on the beat. So that's just like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now again, this probably might be easy for some people, other people not so much. My experience with it is that even when I thought I had some of these things right, I was pretty confident. It turns out I didn't. I wasn't really as on it as I thought I was. So I went back and kind of revisited some really simple ideas, and then I found I got a real benefit from that. So when you're doing something that's much more complicated, you're not sort of as worried about it, sort of thing, because you've got the basis of it sorted, you've got the sort of foundation correct. So this is just, again, and everything is on the beat, and again you can make it as loud as quiet as you like. Again, volume is something I would experiment with as well, so trying to play it really quietly but not go out of time, and then just increase the volume. So you should have a bit of control over what you're doing with the bass part there if you wanted to make certain beats louder than others, and you can do the same obviously with the chord part. You can also cut the chord off, so you could do like, now that's not something I would play normally. The idea behind this is that it's a technique you're building up. So you're really just separating the two parts out and making sure you're okay with that first. The reason I'm explaining that a little bit as well is that when you come to do something that's not on the beat, that's slightly off the beat, you're going to run into problems if you haven't got the first bit sorted. And again, this is just something I've learned trial and error, making my own mistakes many times, and coming to the conclusion, right, I need to go back a few if I had £1 for every time I've went back a few steps, I'd be a millionaire. So now if I want to do it slightly different, and again I wouldn't syncopate all the parts, I would maybe just pick one part to syncopate first. So say that part, so you go, so you're going 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, Okay, so once you feel as if you've got that, then you can move to stage 2 really, which is basically then maybe syncopate one of the other parts. So one thing that happens a lot in this kind of blues thing is I kind of slide into that first thing. So the slide would come in before the first beat. So it'd be like 1, 2, 3, 4. So or you don't need to slide, you can just play. Okay, and then once you feel as if that's quite comfortable and it's sitting well with you, then you can mess about with that. There's endless amount of different things you can do with it, because you can syncopate or not syncopate. You can double things up, like say you did the first bit. You could bring a little bit of vibrato in there if you wanted, or you could do. So each time you do one of these things, or at least what I find is when you do this, each time it's a different little problem to solve. And again, I probably would, once you get the hang of this, I would maybe use a metronome just to make sure you're kind of really in time, because that's one of the key things. Is you'll find that your time will move slightly, you'll maybe speed up or slow down depending on the rhythm you're playing. So the more complicated rhythm that you put in, sometimes that can knock off your basic time. So yeah, a metronome's good for, it's definitely good for that. It didn't really, it's not an exact thing, this, so it's once you get into it, it's a sort of fun exercise. You can just see what works. If you're a singer and you play guitar, obviously, then you could be singing something and try and do some of this at the same time, or you could sing then play that as a kind of call and response type of thing, which is quite good. And then if you are just playing guitar and it's just you and you're just trying to play some sort of blues stuff, then I would mess about with this until you feel comfortable with what you're playing completely. You can obviously go into single notes and do all that kind of thing as well. That's a slightly different thing again. But this kind of little kind of small chordal type thing, this is really good for getting the feel, your groove going. So there's a whole bunch of things you can do with that. And that last bit, I just brought in a couple of extra notes, but this here is like part of this chord, which is an E7. Okay, so any note in that will obviously work. And what I did, I think, was, or something like that, I can't remember what I did exactly. So you can actually outline notes in the chord. That'll also work really well. And bear in mind, at this stage we're only playing E7, so we haven't went anywhere else yet. So when you go up to A7 or B7, whatever, then that's a different approach slightly, because obviously the chord shape is different. So I would highly recommend sticking on E 7 first, and then just see what comes from that. So you basically your goal is to try and be as comfortable as you can. And you can just, it doesn't really matter what you play exactly as long as you think it's pretty cool. You'll notice that if you double that up, the tendency is for your thumb to go with it. So that's another thing to just... And bear in mind, I'm sort of mixing them up with syncopated stuff and maybe sort of some single line stuff as well. So it just means that even though it's just an E and it's pretty basic in some senses, the stuff that you're actually playing is not so simple when you combine it with this sort of constant bass line. And the bass line is just simply 1, 2, 3, 4 all time. It doesn't change. So what you're really doing is building up your level of independence between the two parts that are going, so you get to the point where you feel as if, yeah, I could pretty much play any rhythm over the top of that and it wouldn't knock me out of time, knock me out of sync. So that's the goal with this, and I would say, yeah, have a go at it. Some people have sent me some stuff in. I'm quite happy to have a listen to that and give you some feedback and stuff. So if you want to do that, then that's great. But hopefully you got on well with that, and hope to hear back from some of you soon. Cheers, bye.